In 1934, a maximum security federal prison was opened on Alcatraz Island, San Francisco. It was deemed escape-proof. It housed some of the most ruthless criminals across America, such as Al Capone. 1,576 people were held during its time. But it didn't last for very long, as in 1963 it was closed. This is a story of why it was closed. The Escape of Alcatraz. The date is the 11th of June 1962. Three men, Frank Morris, John Anglin and Clarence Anglin, escaped from an unguarded utility corridor behind their cells. They had planned this for a long while. They stole 50 raincoats to create a raft that they hid by hiding sheets over it in their cells. This was their way of getting off the island. They would place created dummies to leave on their beds so it looked as though they hadn't disappeared anywhere. This worked. It allowed them to go behind their cells and work on the escape. At 10 PM on the 11th of June 1962, they escaped through the corridor and leave the island on the raft, never to be seen again. I don't know about you, but for what was known as an escape-proof prison, it seems absolutely ludicrous to me that they could just escape in such a simple way like this. I mean, a utility corridor behind the cells that no one went in? It's just too good to be true, surely. Well, many do believe that many prison officers were easily bribed. And I'm not surprised. Some of these criminals would have had a lot of money. I can't but feel that there's more to this than just a simple escape. And just maybe, we'll find out that that's true. A huge part of the investigation into this case was the help of Alan West. He was supposed to be the fourth member of this escape crew. He was left behind. He messed up, and they weren't going to wait for him, so he was stuck. Luckily for him, he was never charged. He got away with this, and that was for helping them try to find the other three. He gave all the details, but he didn't know any more. He didn't know where they were going. He didn't know what they planned to do. So, was he really that much help? I'm not so sure. The escape wasn't actually discovered until the morning. A paddle was found at a local dock. Over time, parts of the raft became found as well. They had floated away. This led the FBI to believe that they had drowned, and that is the stance that they still have today. Understandably, not everyone agrees with this. There are many reported sightings, some taken seriously. Over time, it was revealed that the Anglin family actually knew something. They had photos that suggested that the three were still alive. They also had pieces of handwriting made after the escape that suggested again that they were alive. They sat on this evidence for years, not willing to give up their family, but fairly recently they did, and this all came to light. So maybe they did survive. Maybe it was possible. A huge lead came out very recently. A year ago, on the 25th of January 2018, a letter is sent to the police in San Francisco saying, "My name is John Anglin. I escaped from Alcatraz in June 1962. Yes, we all made it that night, but barely." I mean, of course, this could just be some random guy off the street looking for fame, looking to play tricks on people. Very easily to do. He claimed that Clarence Anglin died in 2008 and that Morris died in 2005. He claimed that if promised he'd never go back to jail, he'd let them know where he was. He claims to have cancer. He says he's in bad shape. He says he doesn't have many years left. He also claims to be from living in Southern California, but he also says that he lived in Seattle for most of his life and spent 8 years in North Dakota. So, is this letter genuine? Well, the San Francisco police actually got this letter 5 years before the date it was made public. 5 years. That means that John Anglin is probably dead now, let's be honest. Why did they keep this a secret for so long? It's a bit suspicious. Maybe there really was something to it. In fact, an unnamed source was the one that gave it up. They didn't want to do this. Why? Why did they want to keep it a secret so badly? The US Marshal Service claims that the handwriting on this letter came back inconclusive when looking for a match. The families are unsure. They don't know what to believe. And I understand that. You haven't seen your relatives in so long. It probably seems impossible that just now they're reaching out. Just now they're looking for the attention. The attention that they could have got all those years ago. It was also revealed in 2015 that the FBI were told that 2 of the Alcatraz escapees had been seen in Rio in 1965. To add to this, 15 years later, in 1975, a photo of 2 men on a farm in Brazil standing next to each other. It is claimed that these 2 men, Clarence and John Anglin. Now, in the photo, the 2 men definitely look like they could be brothers. I encourage you to look it up. I'm not convinced that it's them, that it would really be Clarence and John, but it's a theory. It seems far from implausible. FBI files do suggest that US authorities were looking into at least one of the brothers being in Rio de Janeiro. Agents were sent to South America to look for them, but of course nothing ever came back. Did they ever find these 2 men standing on the farm? If they did, I'm sure they'd have easily discovered that these 2 were not the Anglins. But if they never saw them, that adds to their suspicion to me that these 2 men really were the Anglins. It's all well and good looking for where they are now, but let's look at science for a second. Was it even possible that they made it to shore? Or was it inevitable that they were to drown? That they weren't to make it? And right now, they're just at the bottom of the sea. Numerous TV shows, including Mythbusters, have attempted to prove whether or not they could make it. Rafts have been created, and drills have been done to see if it was possible. The most famous one ended with the conclusion: it was impossible for a raft to make it to shore, but it was possible for a triathlon swimmer to swim to shore. Now, these guys weren't triathlon swimmers, but say the raft made it halfway. Surely it's possible they could have swam that half distance. Of course, it wasn't known they'd escaped until the morning, so they had the time. I think it's very possible that they swam to shore. As said in the letter, they barely made it. At the end of the day, there isn't really any real evidence, so it's all on these sightings and theories that people have. Here's another one. A source claimed that Clarence was using a name that sounded like James Swatsea, and John's alias was John Swatsea. They were reportedly in good financial condition. They didn't work, and they came outside usually in the evening, but never in the morning. The FBI could find no trace of a Swatsea in Michigan. The tipster called the bureau in 1967 claiming to have been at school with Morris and having known him for 30 years. He said he bumped into him in Maryland and described him as having a small beard and moustache, but refused to give further details. They also received a letter from a man in 1969 who said a man that looks like the wanted criminal John Anglin had been working at a Grossinger's Hotel Resort in New York, while his brother Clarence was spotted at a restaurant in Georgia in 1972. Despite the FBI's continued insistence that all 3 men had succumbed to the water on the perilous journey to the mainland, the files proved that privately they were looking into the possibility that at least 2, if not all 3 of the men survived. A document dated June 12, 1965, the day after they vanished using papier-mâché masks and real hair from the jail barbers to fool the guards that they were asleep in their beds, said a life raft had been washed up on Angel Island, which was likely to have been the dinghy the Anglin brothers had made from raincoats to round the road to the mainland. The document also says footprints were found on the beach where it was found. If true, it discredits the story they had died in the water. The theory is that they made it to Angel Island, where around that time there were reports of 1955 blue Chevrolet being stolen and fled, possibly to South America. The authorities believed at least one of the brothers could have been living in the Brazilian city under assumed names. The heavily redacted document which suggests the brothers may have made it there and dated January 20th, 1965. The declassified correspondence cited another fugitive who had been caught in Rio after travelling to Brazil with a fake US passport with the intention of becoming a naturalised Brazilian. At the time, there was no extradition treaty between the US and Brazil, making it a safe haven for many criminals on the run. So, it makes sense. It seems very possible that at least one of them, probably more of them, went to Rio de Janeiro and followed the paths of many other famous criminals. I enjoyed looking through the comments and some people's theories. This guy said, "They didn't make it. Someone would have more real proof than a 40-year-old picture. Maybe they were Bigfoot." Another guy said, "I expect they moved in with their buddy, D.B. Cooper." Another pointed out the fact that to this day, there are arrest warrants for these men. So how could they be dead? Another guy pointed out that the Anglin brothers were sentenced to prison after using a toy gun. They didn't actually hurt anyone in their robbery. And he also pointed out that if this was done in my home country, England, they wouldn't have got that long in prison. So to have gone to a maximum security prison, no wonder they broke out. This guy points out, let's go through all of that work. Surely they had a plan when they actually got out of the island. Surely they weren't just going to get on a raft and sit there for the rest of their lives. I mean, surely they actually had a plan. So what happens now? Well, if I'm honest, I don't believe we'll ever truly know what happened to these men. There'll always be theories, but in all likelihood, all those men are dead now, and what's the chances that we ever find anything about them? Extremely, extremely slim. Now, to end, it's time to talk about criminal genius. Would I deem these men geniuses? Well, they escaped from the escape-proof prison. So, maybe? Put it simply, if they died in the water that day, they are nowhere near geniuses. They're fools. They're fools for believing that they could make it. But if they stayed alive past that moment, they lived out happy, successful lives, then sure, I'd deem them geniuses. I'm in no place to deem anyone a genius, but this is just my opinion. And if they've done this and they've pulled this off, then I see no reason why they're not. To have left no real evidence behind, that takes a genius's work. The average guy couldn't do that. They know what they were doing, and they pulled it off. And I truly believe that those men survived that day, and they lived a successful, happy life, never to be seen again. I don't believe these guys were truly bad men. They weren't. But they were smart, they were clever, they outsmarted everyone. And that's why they got away. Don't even try telling me they died that day. Don't even try. Thank you for listening to episode 4 of Criminal Genius. I was your host, Sam. A new episode will be out sometime over the next week. Stay tuned. Thank you.
Wow.